Thank you, everyone. Good evening. I welcome everyone to our council forum and remind you that the meeting is being recorded. Tonight we have one community presentation, after which we will move into closed session. This meeting is an assembly of councillors. Therefore, does any councillor have a conflict of interest or personal interest in the agenda items I wish to declare in accordance with the Local Government Act 1989? Interest must be declared immediately before consideration of the item. Nope, there being no conflict. Councillor, but I don't believe that's applicable for this part of the forum. The next part we will be asking for that. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome Wellsprings for Women, Dalal Smiley, to present to Council on the services that they provide within the City of Casey. And Dalal's kindly left an annual report, 2017-2018, on each of our desks. I think, well, certainly I have one to share with the councillors. And Dalal, I'd like to welcome you and thank you very much for coming in to speak with us. And we've got, 10 minutes? We'll just open for a 10-minute presentation, and if you don't mind, we'll then just have some questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks for the opportunity to present to you this evening. I think last time I was here, you were still in the old building, so congratulations on this new premises. Okay, so basically Wellsprings for Women is an organisation that was established in 1994, provides services to the most disadvantaged and vulnerable and isolated women, especially migrant and refugee women. So very quick facts about us is that we have a board of 7 women and we have about 75 active volunteers, and 32 of our volunteers are Casey residents. We employ 14 staff, 12 of whom live in Casey. We have 140 participants in our programs who are Casey residents, and we assist 6 of the women who reside in Casey through our home visitation program. And we deliver at the moment 9 of our programs in the city of Casey. And our annual turnover is 639,000, etc. And that Casey funds us for 23,000 in 18-19, and which will go up a little bit every year. So we do get the community support funding for the next 3 years, which is great win for us. So where we deliver in Casey in quite a number of different venues, that some of them are council venues, some are community centres. So in Hallam, in Narre Warren South, in Dufton, in Dever Hills, Hampton Park, Lynbrook and Cranbourne. And it's increasingly there is demand on our services, especially for women who are wanting to have parenting classes, play groups, English language classes, and for the home visitation program. The women that mainly we service are women who are experiencing, a whole host of barriers and challenges in their life, including social, cultural, emotional, economic, and language-based barriers. Some of it are due to their migration experience. They might have residual settlement needs. They might be living in relationship where there is rigid gender roles. They be in family violence situations, many of them facing homelessness as a result of that. Some in housing stress situations. There's mental health issues, poverty, trauma from their migration experience or from family violence. They have mental health issues, lack of education prior to migrating to Australia, or racism, sexism and discrimination. So I was one of the brief is to actually mention to you as councillors, how does Wellsprings actually respond and contribute to your vision, to also your strategies and objectives. So your municipal public health plan had about 5 objectives, of which I picked 4 that I feel we strongly respond to. So the increasing of the healthy eating amongst the residents. So we run a number of programs to support that, whereby we have a food ready, which we do in partnership with Red Cross. which teaches women about how to substitute what is unhealthy choices into healthy choices for eating. We have cooking classes for women. We have available fruit and vegetables at the center for our participants. And increased physical activity. We have free participation in physical exercise classes, such as Ageless Grace. We have yoga, cycling program for women, and gardening program. So we do a lot to encourage our women to participate in physical activities. None of those activities actually have any cost associated. So we're improving mental health and well-being. That's a big part of what we do. So our staff are trained, and we have one of our staff accredited to deliver training in mental health first aid. So we do that with all our volunteers and staff who do the mental health first aid. Our home visitation program is very important one. We have a lot of referrals from agencies for women who are facing a lot of issues and need someone to visit them on a regular basis. We have our mentoring program where women come to our center as they try to exit from the home visitation and ease into engagement into the community and other programs. And at the moment, we also started a new grandmother support group. As many of you might know, that grandparenting at the moment is becoming more and more. There's more reliance from children to rely on their grandparents for supporting them and for looking after their children. Reduce violence and injury is another one in your municipal public health plan. And we respond to that by doing programs on education on prevention of violence against women and parenting and play groups. And we also more and more now having to respond to women who disclose to us their family violence situations. And they are becoming very complex issues in terms of what the women are facing in terms of the circumstances associated with family violence. And while we are not an actual agency that is a response agency, we've had to carry many women when they do disclose to us, they're not ready to go anywhere else. So they want us to support them for quite some time. So we've actually been funded at the moment to build our capacity to put in place policies, procedures, and safety plans, and do risk plans with the women, and as well as look after ourselves as staff in how to debrief. So there's some of the photos I thought I'll show you of how we have the cooking program, the Ageless Grace, we have excursions, the craft program. I have a lot of women with disability who actually participate in that one. So we support women by creating and providing a welcome and safe environment. We have multilingual, multicultural staff who are very versed in responding to the women in a culturally appropriate way and speaking their language. We provide childminding at the center, so make it easy for the women if they can't afford childcare. So that makes a big difference for them in accessing our programs. We have low fees, we have parenting, education, and play groups. We provide one-on-one support with the women to help them in engaging with other services. We advocate a lot on their behalf to housing services, to other agencies, to emergency relief, and they always have issues with immigration. So we do a lot of that case management and advocacy. As I mentioned, mentoring, home visitation, and supported referrals. Here are some of the photos of some of the programs we're having, such as the gardening, the excursion, the beading workshop, and doll making. So there's always buzzing activities at Wellsprings, including at all our outreach programs that we're doing at the moment. I'm not sure if I'll have time for a case study, but the challenges is that we have an increased demand on our childminding service, leading to more demand on recruiting and training more childminding volunteers. We have increased in the number of women disclosing family violence, and increased demand on our case management and one-on-one support needed by the women in interacting with other services. The advantage that Wellsprings has over, that we believe it's our advantage, is that we are skilled in trauma-informed approach to our services and the education programs. We have our staff trained in mental health first aid. So we recognize and respond to early signs of family violence. We have an in-depth understanding of the settlement-related challenges, the cultural and religious complexities that impact on migrant and refugee women's lives. And we have a flexibility of learning approaches, including providing one-on-one sessions with volunteer mentors. And we have a diversity of programs for women to engage with. So if I have, I'm not sure what the time is, but it's fine?
We have time is up. How long is the case study?
Oh,
How
it's
long is
only a couple of minutes. And I thought it just gives you an idea of one story. Because sometimes I feel like we go through this presentation, isn't that human element to...
Yeah, I think we'd
So
like to hear
I'll just tell you a bit about Gina. I'm not using people's real names. So Gina is a 60-year-old lady from the Philippines. As a child, she was physically abused by her mom and sexually abused by her mom's friend whenever he visited them. She grew up feeling unloved and not cared for. She met her first husband in 1980 and got married. She had two sons with him, and they were very happy together. But in 1993, Gina's husband lost his job and got depressed. He told Gina that he's going back to his hometown and he will try to find work. But he left and never returned. Later, Gina found a small job and took care of her kids. In 2004, Gina met her current husband in the Philippines, who promised her a good life. She saw hope and moved in with him. He asked her to leave her job and take care of him in return. Soon after getting married, Gina was verbally abused by her husband every now and then, but she tolerated everything as she had no one to take care of her. Both of her sons told her that they earned enough to take care of their own family and they couldn't take care of her. In 2012, she found out that her husband has bipolar. They lived in the Philippines till 2017. They came to Australia in May 2017, and she applied for a spousal visa. They started sharing accommodation with Gina's niece and family. But her husband was verbally abusing her every day and ill-treating her. She was being isolated as her husband didn't allow her to make friends. He controlled all their finances and doesn't let her eat even from the groceries she buys. Gina is basically treated like a slave. She feels helpless. She was physically abused in June 2018. She reported the incident to the police. An intervention order was granted. Gina has no option but to live with her husband despite the order, as she had no support and she is not eligible for Centrelink benefit. She was referred to WAYS, and further on WAYS referred her to our home visitation program for social support. So she's one of our current clients, and every week she comes to us to get some food because her husband won't even give her food that she buys, and he completely controls her life. And it's a very complex case and one of many that we deal with at Wellsprings. And I thought I'll just share that with you. So I just want to say thank you for your support, and we really appreciate the partnership we have with the City of KC, and we're running more programs next year. Some of it is going to be at the library here, and all related to women's empowerment and leadership. Thank you.
Dalal, thank you. I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm going to Councillor Cristani first and Councillor Flannery after that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you so much for coming to present and your work, tireless work, and just so well. Such a meeting, such a need. So please convey to Gina that we heard her story, and I'm glad that you're there to support and we can help with partnership.
Thank you.
Heart goes out to her, really, and many women like that. I have a question. So I know that you said that they're not prepared to seek help, that you give them the knowledge and education. So that includes the way Australian law is set up to protect them, the equality of rights that women do have in this country, the access to equal opportunity, but they're at a point where they're not ready to, I guess, step out on their own. Do you believe that there is enough, I guess, support services out there to allow them to do that, or is it, as you said, complex?
It's I must say that the whole family violence response sector is still really quite fragmented, and it doesn't really help women who have no capacity for themselves, like with the English language, or they come from another culture. So we've had one woman, for example, who, after taking such a huge step to go into a refuge, who actually had such a traumatic experience in the women's refuge, that she said returning back to her husband was better, and putting up with that better than being in the women's refuge, which was quite alarming. Some of them, the shame and the guilt of breaking the family, they're under immense pressure by their own community if they do disclose. So it takes a long, long time for migrant and refugee women to actually do anything about leaving a violent household relationship. So it's very challenging, and sometimes they threaten to kill themselves if we say we need to report this, or we need to send you to another service. So some of those issues that we are dealing with at the moment are quite.
So you mentioned about some of them don't speak very well English, very good English. My grammar was a bit funny there. Can I ask you actually help with English classes?
Yeah, they come to our English language classes, but it's not sufficient for interacting with other services. And the other issue we've had is that the women have lost all trust in using interpreters from their own community due to breach in confidentiality. So they, reporting to us that interpreters in their own community are not keeping their confidence and are telling other people in the community about their situation, and that's attracting a lot of angst and stigma from other people in that community towards them. So there is.
So there's a breach in confidentiality for their service they're providing.
Yeah. So if you're using an interpreter, they're not meant to keep whatever they're told completely confidential, and that's not happening.
Thanks, Councillor Cristani. Perhaps you need to look at interpreters that aren't from their community, people that have actually learnt the language. I don't know if that's the answer.
Would be very difficult to find. Already the interpreter services have such a trouble recruiting people who speak those, many of those languages. It's we're liaising with the interpreter services about more training and about reporting interpreters who do breach confidentiality. But once the trust has been broken, it's going to take a long time to restore it.
Sure, and they are in fear. We're just going to go to Councillor Flannery.
Could I just finish off with the comment?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, just wanted to tail off that, and that is until they have a capacity to learn the language, obviously they'll need interpretation, but the best chance of them being more independent is to learn the language so that they can control. That's just a comment, but it's great what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Cristani. Councillor Flannery.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I was going to ask you a couple of questions, but you answered them as you were reporting back to Councillor Cristani, so thank you for that. Over the last month, I've been talking to a particular group of people that have come to Australia, and they're in my area. I won't mention the community groups, but one of the things was I've asked men and women what are their main concerns within their community group, and it is family violence. And without getting into separation and the religious groups or anything like that, you know, it's very difficult to be able to, you know, get forums and that together because people are scared of retribution back at home from their partners.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, we need to have an open forum or just, you know, a discussion group where we get all different groups of nationalities that have come out to Australia and get them into a forum and have an open discussion about family violence. I think it just needs to be brought out more often. You know, it's okay for us to have banners up, which, you know, we put up again, and Casey Council says no to family violence, but I think we need to have open forums and have them, you know, we can have them here or any other big council places, and I think that the word needs to get out more often than not. But what you're doing is fantastic. But as I said, more people need to know about your services, and yeah, you're doing a great job. But I think that we need to get the community groups and get open forums, and we need to get this out in the open and discuss it more often. And you know, even if people bring their husbands along, you know. I don't care if we have to shame them, but family violence is a tragedy, and it should not happen.
Yeah, it is hard to make it an open forum. Like sometimes we have to call it. Our program is called Women's Health and Wellbeing Program, because the minute you mention family violence, the husbands will not let them attend anything related to that. So it's a complex and very delicate sometimes issue to navigate and see what's the best approach. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Councillor Flannery, and thank you so much, Dalal. We would like to just
you.
express our appreciation for the work that you and your organisation are doing, and just to say how proud we are at the City of Casey to be supporting this great
Thank
work.
you very much.
Thank you very much.
And have
Merry
a great
Christmas.
break and enjoy the festive season.
Thank you so much, and you too. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this evening. Council will now move into a private session, and I wish you all a safe travel home. Not the councillors, stay there. Stop. We'll just take a short break if you want to get a cup of coffee, councillors, so that we can move into our closed session.